want to address some news you may have seen about me. Over the last several years, I've made substantial donations to dozens of charities, including the Clinton Global Foundation. Those donations were a matter of public record, but I should have made additional disclosures on air when we covered the foundation. And I now believe that directing personal donations to that foundation was a mistake. Even though I made them strictly to support work done to stop the spread of AIDS, help children, and protect the environment in poor countries, I should have gone the extra mile to avoid even the appearance of a conflict. I apologize to all of you for failing to do that. We'll be right back.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was from George Stephanopoulos' Sunday show on ABC this week, and it was the same exact wording, I believe, that he from the apology he gave last week, I think on Friday, when all this came to light. Joining us now is Lloyd Grove, editor-at-large of the Daily Beast, contributor to New York Magazine. Great to see you, sir.
Nice to see you.
All right, so you've written several pieces on this. This apology, it's not going to do the trick, is it? I mean, it's not the end of it.
Well, it hasn't ended it so far. I mean, yesterday on Brian Stelter's CNN media criticism program, two of George's former ABC colleagues, Jeff Greenfield and Carol Simpson, just wailed the tar out of him for what is obviously an ethical lapse. And maybe if George had been a journalist to begin with instead of a political operative and had that DNA, he wouldn't have thought to make this sort of a mistake.
Well, your piece, one of them is titled George Stephanopoulos really isn't a journalist. That's according to one of the people you mentioned on the show.
I disagree. I think journalists can have all kinds of backgrounds and do the job. And I think George did a pretty good job of separating himself from his political past. First, he wrote a memoir shortly after he left the White House.
Well, he was critical of the Clintons.
Quite critical of the Clintons, and it was an honest memoir. It was a #1 New York Times bestseller. Terrific read. I've read it. It's a great book. And then when he was a political analyst at ABC, he was among the first to suggest that the Monica Lewinsky scandal would lead to impeachment. Of course, the Clintons were enraged at him, and one of the Clinton loyalists dubbed him George Step on Top of Us.
Yes.
So George created the separation very strategically, and he's not a bad journalist. He's smart. He asks good questions.
Well, let's use your premise and say that's all true. Certainly, I think any goodwill he might have built up in the minds of impartial people or people looking for impartiality, with his grilling of Peter Schweitzer. I mean, he destroyed him. Brought up his past connections. He was a speechwriter, funded by the Koch brothers. And failing to mention, not only, as it turns out, the 3 contributions totaling $75,000 to the Clinton Foundation, but now he's done more with the Clinton Foundation. He's participated in all kinds of events, served in various capacities, which he still hasn't come out and said. This has been uncovered by other people who are doing research.
Yeah, well, that wasn't a secret. I mean, if you're on a panel, and a lot of journalists, TV journalists particularly, have run panels for that foundation, I think a lot of them are probably staying away from it, with the George example, and also because this Hillary campaign has ramped up now. But, you know, that Peter Schweitzer interview was an outrage, not coming clean and saying, by the way, Peter, I've given $75,000 bucks, which is lots more than the median income of a family of 4 in America.
No, absolutely.
Chicken feed to me.
All right, but so could he go forward? I mean, you know, you and I were talking before, and we could make the analogy and even say how it's going to affect NBC right now. The focus had been on Brian Williams, although that focus has disappeared to a great extent because Brian Williams has disappeared. But could George Stephanopoulos now go forward and anchor the election coverage for ABC News? You know, and I had heard today that he told us that he pulled himself off of any debate, the Republican debate, but he had reportedly been told before that he was not going to be the man running that debate or involved in that debate. So that was disingenuous again. I'm a hero, I'll take myself out, but he was already pulled out by ABC before that. So can he, going forward, have the confidence of the American people that will watch ABC News and say, okay, I'm going to watch his election coverage?
Well, that's a great question, and I don't know the answer to that. Clearly, what he has done in the past few days and what he did in that Schweitzer interview sort of fed into a belief about George, particularly among partisan Republicans, that it's a Clinton guy, liberal Democrat, political operative. How could he be impartial? So that feeds into that, unfortunately for him.
So are they breathing a sigh of relief at NBC because for a while the focus is off them? Or does this put Brian Williams back in the mix to say, see, here's Stephanopoulos, here's Brian Williams?
Well, they are breathing a sigh of relief that people are not writing about NBC. They've had a rough 3 months at NBC, and they're just happy for any kind of a break at all.
Well, what do you think's going to happen there? I mean, there were reports that the head of NBC News wants him to return.
I don't think that's the case. I think Andy Lack, who did in fact promote Brian Williams' career when he was president of NBC News the first time around, had 13 years of separation, and he came in, he was called by Steve Burke, the head of NBC Universal, to fix this situation. So that's what he's going to focus on, fixing the situation, regardless of what happens to Brian Williams.
And when does Hillary, we have a pool that we run here, when does Hillary take her next question from a media member?
Not today.
Not today. I mean, it's insane. Now look how many, I mean, and when are they going to ask her? Would she change her vote on Iraq? No, I mean, she's the only one running for president that voted to go to Iraq.
That's going to be part of the primary debate. Bernie Sanders is not going to let her off the hook. Martin O'Malley is not going to let her off the hook. By the way, which do you think had better abs, Martin O'Malley or Mitt Romney?
Oh, Vladimir Putin, right? I don't know. Great seeing you. Thanks for coming up. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, folks. We're coming back. We're going to have the Malzberg panel. We'll throw all this around and a lot more. The Pope's recognition of a Palestine and his embracing of Mahmoud Abbas is on the table, too. Don't go away. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it.